Is the universe intelligent? Is the universe some kind of cosmic brain or sentient computerized mind of some kind? And if this is the case, how is this possible, and what does this mean for us as humans? These are some of the questions that we will try to answer in this video, with you taking special notice of the fact that I am comparing images of bits and pieces of the natural universe with images of bits and pieces of technology and neurology and other relevant images and concepts that will be flashing by on your screen for the duration of this video. And with me narrating and presenting these comparative images and concepts, no holds barred, under the assumption that you paid enough attention in school and to current events over the years to have no problem understanding the concepts that are being presented to you in this video. If the stars are indeed sentient, and if there is a god or gods, then what you are seeing in this video is the closest you will ever come to seeing how this might be possible. Because if the universe is indeed some kind of intelligent entity, like a god perhaps, or even the devil for that matter, then this is the closest you will ever come in your lifetime to finding out how and why this would even be possible. Because the only thing that would make this possible would be if black holes were indeed playing roles as computer units and other roles in the universe, as sentient souls that defy the laws of physics. This would include the so-called black hole at the beginning of time, which does or did reside at the center of the universe, just like the subthalamus, nucleus, and hypothalamus of the brain reside at and near the brain center, with us exploring these concepts in greater detail later. As we also bear in mind that black holes supposedly exist within all galaxies, including at their centers, like our Milky Way and Andromeda, which appear to be playing roles as brain cells and computer units and other roles. And with me repeating myself more than a few times in this video in order to save myself another month of editing and re-editing. With the cores/nuclei of galaxies at large, especially spiral galaxies, appearing to be playing the simultaneous roles as cell, nuclei, and computer processors of some kind. But the point that I am trying to make in this video is that the so-called intelligent and computable universe as a brain theory can only be supported by incorporating the concept of artificial intelligence into this theory, I believe. As we also bear in mind that black holes are supposedly computers, in addition to being entangled, according to Scientific American magazine, just like brain neurons are entangled, like the universe at large, via a network of entangled black holes, according to New Scientist magazine. As we also bear in mind that black holes supposedly have quantum properties, just like quantum computers, just like brain neurons that supposedly function like tiny quantum biological computers, in addition to being entangled, just like black holes, as just noted. the billions and trillions of galaxies, stars, and planets in our universe, more or less numerically corresponding to the number of neurons and synapses in the human brain. And with the human brain also appearing to be more or less structured like the universe at large, which is something you can see for yourself in greater detail than I have provided if you look this concept up on the internet. As you bear in mind the significant fact that computer scientists have recently collaborated with neurologists and invented what are called neuromorphic computer chips, or brain chips, which are little more than ultra-complex central processing units that are modeled after the human brain in order to substantially increase the computational power and memory of computer systems and networks of computer systems. The universe is pure technology disguised as Mother Nature, with the so-called black hole at the beginning of time serving as the central component of this neuromorphic computer chip we call the universe, or God for that matter, as we also bear in mind once again that black holes are supposedly computers. While also bearing in mind that the hypothalamus of the brain is the central control center of the human brain and body, just like a neuromorphic computer chip would have its own control center. The center of the universe might have, or will be, a computer. As we also bear in mind that the chemical composition of computer equipment is largely silicon and metals and their respective oxides and so forth that are abundant throughout the universe. This means that the universe is made of the same chemical elements that computer and other electronic equipment is made of, and in the same proportion, and I would bet money on this. The universe may be a lot smaller than we think, and just an artificially intelligent neuromorphic computer chip that mimics the human brain. Let us have another look at interconnected black holes at the center of galaxies, like our Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies, compared to interconnected computer systems, compared to interconnected neurons, as we bear in mind once again that black holes and neurons are supposedly computers of some kind, respectively interconnected. With the interconnected black holes and perhaps galactic filaments serving specifically as the equivalent of axons and dendrites in artificial neurons, with black holes throughout the universe serving as the equivalent of the nuclei in artificial neural cells of the cosmic artificial brain we call the universe. Galaxies are even shaped like neurons, like brain cells, as we can see. Everything is in the right place as far as the universe being some kind of artificially intelligent computer of some kind. There are no two ways about the fact that the interconnected galactic filaments and black holes that we see actually look like the examples of the artificial neurons that we also see now, in addition to functioning like artificial neurons. And I also suspect that they are made of the same chemical elements as artificial neurons. Let us have a closer look at interconnected artificial neurons and their synapses compared to black holes and their characteristics, compared to the technologies that are flashing by on your screen. As you bear in mind that the only examples of artificial synapses and neurons I could find on the internet at this point are made from what are called optical fibers. And you probably already know what these are for. They transmit and receive data to and from their destination and sources respectively in the form of light signals that flow through optical fiber networks. Another comparison between Mother Nature and technology that is especially significant is that black hole, wormholes, tunnels, or what have you are structured and function like the axons that connect biological and artificial optical and photonic neurons and synapses. We can see that biological neural axons and black holes and optical fibers or what have you are all more or less layered alike, in addition to behaving alike as far as I am concerned. My theory of the universe as an artificially intelligent cybernetic universe / technoverse of some kind is in part supported by the fact that the language of the academic disciplines and professions of computer science and astrophysics and neurology overlap into each other, with the word nucleus and nuclei being used by all three diverse disciplines and professions. With the so-called black hole at the beginning of time serving as the equivalent of perhaps the subthalamic nucleus or hypothalamus, around which the human brain evolved, essentially, just like the universe evolved around the so-called black hole at the beginning of time. I think you get my point here. What is also significant is that the galaxies are even structured like giant neural cells, both of whose nuclei in turn are organized and function and abstractly look like computer chips of some kind, as we can see with our own eyes in these comparisons, with the similarities being obvious to the logical mind in what are a few examples out of many that I have in my image files that would blow your mind. The internal and external structure and dynamics of brain cells, computer chips, and galaxies are mirror images of each other in a set of comparisons that includes the computer component of DNA inside all living cells, just like black holes exist inside the nuclei of galaxies like our Milky Way, with quantum black holes corresponding to the concept of quantum computers, including quantum computers used to study the DNA in genes. Supposedly DNA are quantum computers, and supposedly black holes are quantum computers, and supposedly quantum computers are used to study DNA. I think our DNA is somehow directly related to black holes. And I am going to go out on a limb here, even more so than I already have, with no smooth transition to this new concept, insofar that not only do the spiral galaxies in part appear to be serving as the equivalent of brain cells and computer units of some kind, but they also appear to be serving as the equivalent of what are called microfluidic laboratory-on-chip devices. In addition to playing the roles of antennas. Lab-on-chip devices do exactly what you think they do, as medical and scientific biosensor and chemical sensor devices that analyze, manipulate, and control cells, genes, particulates, and other matter at the microscopic level. This would mean that the universe appears to be a fusion of multiple forms of bits and pieces of control-based high technology that is organized into a gigantic artificial neural network of some kind. With the galactic cores / nuclei serving as fusions of computer and antenna nodes and inlet valves, respectively, fused with synapses inside some kind of cosmic brain we call the universe. With this example of a centrifugal microfluidic lab-on-chip device being the only example of one I could find with a computer at its center, just like the hypothetical computer at the center of our Milky Way galaxy, the core of which could also be an antenna node, a cell nucleus, our neural cell, as we bear in mind that the universe supposedly behaves as if it is in part made of some kind of fluid, just like your brain is largely made of and submerged in cerebral fluid. The concepts you have encountered in this video are not inconsistent with the Gnostic theology that postulates that the stars in the universe are sentient, and that the center of our Milky Way is some kind of feminine intelligence that reached out and created our Earth and the rest of the solar system, as we bear in mind once again that black holes are supposedly computers, and there is a black hole at the center of our galaxy in what would be an indication of some kind of artificial intelligence, I believe. And with our solar system being in just the right place relative to the position of the black hole at the center of our Milky Way galaxy, relative to the location of the inlet and outlets in certain types of lab-on-chip devices, as we also bear in mind that black holes emit radio waves, which would include the black hole at the center of our Milky Way galaxy, and with our solar system being in just the right place relative to the location of the receiver node in this radio transceiver chip that I found on the internet compared to our Milky Way galaxy, as we bear in mind that galaxies emit radio waves, just like radio transmitter antennas. As we also bear in mind that the electromagnetic fields produced by the sun, the earth, and humans are all the equivalent of radio signals, thereby rendering us all some kind of biological antennas. And as you look at these bits and pieces of the natural universe compared to the bits and pieces of technology that you see in this video, we need to bear in mind that some of the more radical conspiracy theorists for decades have asserted that humans are being manipulated, controlled, and exploited in many ways by extraterrestrial beings of some kind. But if humans are being observed, manipulated, exploited, and so forth by extraterrestrials, then the technologies and concepts you see flashing by on your screen are how this control, manipulation, and exploitation is being facilitated by little more than extraterrestrial beings that most people call demons, angels, archons, and any number of so-called spirits or gods that would all be little more than citizens of some kind of galactic, intergalactic, and interdimensional empires of various levels of technological development. With the more advanced beings using the respective technologies you are looking at in this video as platforms and tools in which to reside and communicate and transport themselves and manipulate and exploit weaker and less intelligent life forms, especially life forms that might have been specifically engineered for the purpose of exploitation, as the equivalent of farmed livestock, like us humans perhaps, with our life force energy being harvested by parasitic beings of pure energy, according to some conspiracy theorists, with our organs, blood, tissue, and other body parts and fluids also being harvested by citizens of what would be a cluster of extraterrestrial empires that would be subdivided according to their levels of technological and moral development. This includes subdivisions between the interdimensional, intergalactic, and galactic level empires, and the material and ethereal, biological and artificial, and combinations thereof, as small parts of a system of intelligences inside intelligences inside intelligences, minds inside minds, artificial and biological, perhaps, in which us ignorant but sentient life forms called humans might not be entirely helpless victims of these hypothetical ETs who would have certain rules that they must play by if they exist, and who would be doing all they could feasibly do to prevent the human race from realizing that the universe is pure technology disguised as natural phenomena. In what I believe is a largely Darwinian universe in which it would be up to us to liberate ourselves from a master race of hypothetical ETs, as opposed to crawling around on our hands and knees and praying and begging for God to save us from the devil and all its manifestations, if such things exist, as you bear in mind that God would also be the devil, as well as an engineer and referee of some kind that make up the computerized mind we call the universe, or God, the devil, or what have you. The cosmic engineer, or God, or the devil, if they exist, would also be distributed throughout the minds of sentient organisms throughout the universe. I think that the hardcore ET conspiracy theorists, like David Icke, might be onto something, by the way, although for some reason they have not suggested a way to get to the bottom of this burning ET question that I am aware of, let alone suggest a solution. if they turned out to be correct, as we consider the fact that the way for the human race to hedge its bets and get to the bottom of this ET control issue would be to somehow form a confirmed, independent, and untainted ET Truth Commission with the power to compile and analyze DNA samples extracted from the so-called blue blood owners and executives of the corporate sector economy, starting with the U.S. Western financial system and the mass media. This vetting process would have to include Kirlian photography and any number of brain and body scans, including MRI and PET and EEG scans, all conducted for perfectly legitimate reasons of national and global security. Because if extraterrestrial entities are indeed among us, then their power base would most certainly be concentrated at the apex of the socioeconomic pyramid, perhaps as hybrids that occupy human bodies somehow, as if we were vessels or containers, to borrow a word from Gnostic theology. If this is the case, this means that these hypothetical ETs are likely presiding at or near the hierarchy of ET empires. With the ability to clone and even possess the bodies of any lesser life forms they choose from the other side of the universe for all we know, as some kind of quantum gods that reside inside black holes, especially when we consider that black holes have quantum properties and are supposedly souls, as well as computers plus other technologies, if we take these book and magazine titles and other comparisons you see in this video at face value. The implications of this in part include the fact that the alpha ETs that supposedly have the ability to possess the bodies and minds of humans probably merged with computers and other machines billions of years ago, if not trillions, in order to attain immortality and conquer the cosmos they inherited and evolved out of, or perhaps even engineered, for all we know. And whether the universe was created, engineered, or simply evolved, the hypothetical ETs in question here probably have the ability to download themselves into our universe at will from their own much larger universe. And this would include the ability to download themselves into any intelligent humanoid of their choosing anywhere in the universe. As just noted, these gods might even ponder the existence of God and the devil themselves, just like we humans do. And this would include mortal extraterrestrials that haven't completely merged with machines and or morphed into beings of pure energy, the latter of which would likely be using the entire universe as a technological platform through which to play God over their respective domains, if these gods even exist at all. The galaxies and planets are platforms for us lesser life forms to exist on. and with black holes being reliable platforms for these hypothetical alpha ETs, or quantum gods perhaps, to download or upload themselves onto and exist on and project themselves from, especially when considering that black holes live for many billions of years, in addition to serving as portals to other black holes in space, time, and even other dimensions, supposedly, with the computer and time travel and white hole components of black holes being the ultimate key to eternal life, whether or not the Alpha and Omega God even exists. Some humans might even be avatars for black holes, anti-stars at large perhaps, and a little more than the equivalent of remote-controlled biocomputers through which our overlord ETs live vicariously through from light years away, perhaps. Some of us might be a lot older than we think we are, in addition to not being exactly who we thought we were, or think we are. With the entire universe being a platform for God, or the gods as they play God, as if the universe were perhaps a gigantic gaming computer like this one that appears to be structured like the universe in an abstract way, especially when we factor in the black hole / computer at the beginning of time component. While also factoring in the similarities in the language of computerized artificial intelligence and black hole and white hole physics. What is especially significant here is that we humans are now merging ourselves with computers and other machines in our efforts to attain immortality and explore and conquer the world, the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe, as if we were gods. It appears that the human race is likely following in the footsteps of the gods or God that engineered the human race, and probably even the engineers of the human race, as we bear in mind that history supposedly repeats itself in what could apply to the history of the universe. With ourselves being an integral part of this recycling process, we came from the stars and we will return to the stars, our ashes and dust. This ties into a concept that I picked up from some funky New Age book that I skimmed through years ago, the title and author of which I forgot, but the book postulates that the universe is so old and vast and long-lived that each and every ethical individual on Earth would have to take their turn at being Alpha God at some point in time. So, if humans are indeed being groomed and tested for some kind of godhood by some kind of alpha ET, then the only way this godhood could be facilitated would be through the merger of man and machine, especially human intelligence and artificial intelligence. Because this is the only way humans could live long enough to play God, as well as keep track of the life forms these godlike humans would be playing God over in their respective domains, in a hierarchical order of ET empires that does not quite defy the imagination. I am going to conclude this video with a nod to YouTuber Mr. MP3, who so nicely shared me with his subscribers and recommended that I research the archons. Supposedly these archons are reptilian ETs. And if the universe is dominated by reptilian ETs, I think that this concept correlates to the fact that the universe as a brain theory corresponds to the reptilian component of the inner human brain, as we bear in mind that the brain evolved and expanded around its reptilian component near the hypothalamus, which grows out of the brainstem. Like the first galaxies more or less grew and evolved from the black hole at the beginning of time, as if this black hole were a brainstem and nucleus around which the universe evolved, probably in coevolution with the brains of organisms throughout the universe, with the oldest galaxies probably being the ones that produced the so-called reptilian gods that have supposedly been preying on humans for millennia, and perhaps other life forms as well. Whatever the case, the dynamics and structure of the universe that I am using in this video is an abstract mirror image of what is called a master-slave computer architecture. Because it seems that human civilization appears to be some kind of inverted carbon copy of the universe and vice versa, which is not a pretty picture when you think about it. And I included a playlist if you want to explore my cybernetic universe technoverse concept. And if you liked this video, hit the like button, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button so you can receive notification whenever I upload a new video.